everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, last week we learned how to play 3 different blues rhythms over the same MP3 jam track or backing track. And that was really designed to help spice up your rhythm playing. Rhythm is very important, give you some new ideas and all of that. Well, that lesson ended up being so popular that I'm back this week with an extension. And so what we're going to learn this week, we're going to use those same rhythms, but we're going to add some fill licks or some lead parts to go along with it. So if you're seeing this video out of context and you'd like to learn those rhythms, that lesson was EP167. So you can go to ActiveMelody.com, go to the lessons page and do a search for EP167 and learn the 3 blues rhythms if you're interested. What's really cool about this week's lesson is we're going to use the same fill licks, same lead parts over all 3 rhythms. So you really only have to learn it once. That's going to make this much easier. And you'll find that it's really not that difficult to play these. They're not super advanced. And they're a lot of fun to play, and you'll learn how to extend this even beyond what I'm showing you. So I'm going to show you the scales and the keys we're in and all of that, and put it all in context. So I've got this lesson split into 3 parts. In this video, we're going to take a look at part 1, or the first rhythm with the fill licks. If you'd like to watch the other 2 videos, as well as download the tablature and download the MP3 jam track so you can practice filling in the rhythms. And I've got that in 3 different keys, by the way. The key that we're going to learn it in, which is A, but I've got 2 additional keys so you can transcribe and play around with it in different positions on the neck. You can get all of that at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP168. That's a lesson number for this lesson. So let's go ahead and get started with part 1. Alright, so let's jump into this first rhythm pattern. Now a lot of this is going to be similar to what we learned last week. So in last week's lesson, that was EP167. So check that out if you haven't. But let me point out what's going to be the same and what's going to be different. This is based on a call and response structure. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I say call, the call is like this. That's the call. The response goes, and then it repeats. It goes back to the call, back to the response. Now the responses are different each time with these different leads, and that's what's going to give this a lot of variety and get you out of kind of feeling like you're stuck in a rut. And actually it's a nice way of kind of combining lead with rhythm. But last week's response sounded like this. So let me play the call. That part's the same, but the response was, right? So that's over the A part. Then it goes to the D part. And then just back and forth between A, D, then I went to the E, and then back to the A. So that was what we learned last week. Now, let's learn some different responses. So what's cool about playing call and response style rhythm is you can improvise. And so you have to have something that's kind of predictable or like some kind of repetition. Well, you don't have to, but I think of it that way. When I'm playing rhythm, I have one little hook that I keep going back to that kind of tells the listener's ear, okay, that's the rhythm. And in this case, it would be that. Think of that as the call. Now, let's look at the responses. The first one is this Albert King sounding lead that I'm playing in A minor pentatonic scale. And so, and actually before I get to that, let me just show you the walk up to the call. We're just going to go through the call once so we don't have to keep repeating back to it. But it starts on the 6th string. There's a little pickup, and I'll show you how to count that in. But the notes are open 6th string, or the low E string, 3rd fret, 4th fret, and 5th fret. That's all on the E string. So we have, and that's how you start it. Now to count that in, you go 1 and 2 and 3 and. So that comes in on the and of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, so that's the walk up. Now this little part, the rest of the call, I'm borrowing the first 4 strings on the 5th fret, and I'm playing strings 3 and 4. And as soon as I play that, I hammer on to the 6th fret 3rd string with my middle finger, like that. Then take my ring finger, borrow the first 4 strings on the 7th fret, and play strings 3 and 4. And then go back to the 5th fret and do that same little hammer on there on the 6th fret 3rd string. So it goes. That's the call. Now that's a repeat of last week. Now, this response, at this point we can do whatever we want in you can improvise, and that's where I want you to go ultimately with this, is to be able to improvise this and play something like this for 20-30 minutes if you want. You can just keep improvising, coming up with new licks. But let me show you the ones I did. So the first one, we start on the 7th fret, 3rd string, middle finger. And what I'm doing is, let me give you the boundary. So we're in, we're starting in pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale for the key of A, and we're sliding up to pattern 2. Now, if you don't know what I mean when I say pattern 1 and pattern 2, check out the blues lead course, which is available at activemelody.com. I'll go through all 5 patterns. But the pattern 1 is here. So your root fret is on the 5th fret. So I'm starting on the 7th fret, 3rd string, sliding up to the 9th fret, and then I take my ring finger and go to the 10th fret, 2nd string. Now this is where we're up in pattern 2. Pattern 2 is here, right? Makes that little box shape here. So we're coming up to that note. Immediate slide back down to the 7th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret. That's the 7th fret, 4th string. So let me back up. We have, and then the last note is on the 5th fret, 3rd string. And when you play that with the timing, it goes. You can hear how it falls right on the beats. 2 and 3 and 4. That's that first lead. A lot of fun to play, really not that difficult. And this is the kind of thing you could do this on an acoustic guitar as well, if that's all you have. There's not any bending going on, it's just sliding, and it's not too high up on the neck. Okay, so if we put everything together up to this point, alright, so now that we've established a pattern, we're just going to keep going back and repeating it. So the second time through, we're still in the A part, we're going to play the same call. Now I'm not going to add the pickup, so we're not going to play. That only happens the first time, just to kind of walk into something. The second time through, we're just going to play that part of the call. But you already know that for A. That's the call for A. And always tie this stuff back to chords. I always stress that in every video, but look at where, when we do this little, look at where that is in reference to the A major bar chord, so that if you were playing in the key of G, you've got these licks that you can use. If you're a rhythm player now, it doesn't matter what key you're in. If they're playing a blues in E, or up here, right? So play around with that. Just tie it always tie it back to a chord, so you've got some kind of an anchor. All right. There's lick 1. We're back to the call. The second time through, I went like that. Again, we're starting in pattern 1. We're sliding up to pattern 2, so it's the same slide up on going from the 7th fret to the 9th fret on the 3rd string. This time I got my index finger on the 8th fret, 1st string. So it's a downstroke and an upstroke. And then there's the 10th fret, 2nd string. Back to the 8th fret, 2nd string. Then there's the 9th fret, 3rd string. We're going to slide down immediately after we play it. Down to the 7th fret. 5th fret. 7th fret, 4th string. So all together, it sounds like that. Now you've got a lot of material even with just that. See how it's starting to feel like you're playing rhythm, but you're also improvising with some lead stuff? Now we're going to take that, now is where the song switches to the D, so we're going to take that same call pattern, and we're going to shift it all the way up here, so now we're barring the first 4 strings on the 10th fret. Doing the same thing though. So just remember what I said about how you always tie it back to a chord, so your D chord, your D major chord, using the E chord shape, would be here, so your bar would be on the 10th fret. So now look, same thing we did down here. Alright, so the response to that goes. Now, that's a Freddie King lick, and Freddie King would often do these, I'm not sure how to describe it other than like a cascading style where he's bouncing back and forth between a major and minor pentatonic scale. And there's a sweet spot right here between pattern 1, so we're going to start this thing in pattern 1 of the A minor pentatonic scale, but then we're going to be bouncing back and forth between pattern 2 of the major pentatonic scale for the key of A. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, make sure you check out EP130, that's a lesson that I did on mixing the major and minor pentatonic scale. And I have diagrams and I show what I'm talking about, how there's this little bit of overlap here. And that's what we're going to be doing, just to put this in context. So, first note, ring finger on the 8th fret, 2nd string. Second note is going to be 5th fret, 2nd string. Now we're going to, so that's minor pentatonic scale, right? Pattern 1. Now we're going to, the third note's going to be the 7th fret, 2nd string. And that's where we switch to the major pentatonic scale, pattern 2. Middle finger goes down on the 7th fret, 3rd string. Kind of a challenge because you got the 2nd string and the 3rd string all happening on the same fret, which is fret 7. So let's back up. We have, now we're back to the 5th fret, 2nd string, and then look at this. We're going to play 5th fret, 2nd string, 5th fret, 3rd string. Both those happen in the same fret as well. 7th fret, 4th string, 5th fret, 4th string, 7th fret, 5th string, open, 6th string. So when you put it together, that's what the lick sounds like. Now that may be complicated to those of you that are just getting started playing lead, but once you learn this, you can start to apply that on other strings and get totally different sounds. For example, if we took that same lick and we just did it, jumped up a set of strings, very Freddie King. You can see the power of taking this, going back and forth between the minor and major pentatonic scale, and Freddie was a master at that. So I wanted to work in a little Freddie style lick. So for the timing of this lick, we're going to come in on the and of 4. So if we were counting it in, we'd say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And you can see those are just eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4. There's 8 of them in each measure, and that's all we're doing. So counting it in again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, now we've just defined the E part of the song by hitting that low 6th string, which is an E note. So in the previous lesson, we learned the E part up here. Just to change it up and give you a little variety, I decided to play it an octave lower, which is down here. So what we're playing now is I'm playing strings 2 and 3, and as soon as, so just open string 2 and 3, the B and the G note, and then I'm hammering on to the 3rd string on this 1st fret. That's just the E chord. You're just building the E chord, just those 2 notes out of it. Okay, then I take my middle finger and lay it down across the 2nd fret, and I'm going to play strings 2 and 3, or 2 and 3 and 4, either way, and then back to what we just did. So it's kind of the same thing. The only difference is I'm playing strings 2 and 3 instead of 3 and 4, but same principle. Okay, so you can see what I did there. I just naturally played an E chord. After I played that open E string, I just came down mentally and made an E chord and just did a hammer on with this finger. That may be an easier way to think of it. Okay, now the response to that was Billy Gibbons kind of thing. Sounds kind of like a Texas blues. Let me show you that. So that's we're going at this point. I did switch keys. Now everything up to this point has been A major or A minor pentatonic scale, But at this point, on the 5 chord, you can do this on the 5 chord sometimes. It's easy to do, and it kind of gives you a nice little punch. I switched keys in my mind to the E minor pentatonic scale to give a little different feel over that 5 chord. So the way I'm playing that lick, I'm starting on the 2nd fret 3rd string with my middle finger, sliding up to the 4th fret, and then my index finger goes down on the 3rd fret 2nd string. Now I picked that 3rd string with my pick, and then I use my middle finger to pluck the 2nd string like this. So looking at my right hand, it looks like that. Now you don't have to do that. You could pick it, whatever is easiest, but it gives it a different, I think it's more, maybe I'm trying to sound like Billy Gibbons. Sounds more raw to hit that with your finger. Okay, after that, we're sliding back to the 2nd fret, open G string or open 3rd string, 2nd fret again on the 3rd string. Now watch this. And all I'm doing there is I'm just building the E chord. I'm doing that hammer on again on the 3rd string, hammering onto the first fret. And then that's a hammer on as well. So I'm just picking that once. And all I'm doing is I'm taking my middle finger, ring finger, and doing a hammer on there to strings 5 and 4 on the 2nd fret. Just making the E chord. And then I play an upstroke on the 1 string. So you go. And the timing of it sounds like that. And then after that, we're right back to the call, which is an A. Back to the A part. And then the response goes. And what I did here is I came down to pattern 1 of the major pentatonic scale. Remember pattern 1. Right? Same shape as there's the minor, but remember we're down 3 frets. So, and that's a bend there on the 4th fret 3rd string. It's a bend and release. It's a full bend. 2nd fret 3rd string. There's the 4th fret 4th string. 2nd fret 3rd string. And then that last note is on the 4th fret 4th string. Okay. And at this point it would repeat. Now, as you're doing the repeat, you're not going to walk that up anymore. That really only happened. I threw that in once just to kind of give you a way to get into this thing. But once you use it, at least if you're following this cadence, you wouldn't use it again. Okay, let me back up now from the beginning and play through everything in this pattern. Remember these licks because you're gonna hear them as we go through I'm going to show you how to work them into rhythms 2 and 3 in the next 2 videos. And we'll be able to reuse those licks, which is going to make this nice because it's kind of like it'll be familiar territory. You're not learning a whole ton of stuff, but you can see what all you can do with it. All right, here we go from the beginning. 1 and 2 and 3 and... So that's part 1. I will see you at Active Melody, EP168, and we'll go through the other 2 parts. So make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you download the jam track and practice playing this along with the jam track once you get it down, because that's really how you learn this and learn how to stay in time. All right, we'll see you in part 2.